Tired of feeling misunderstood, frustrated, and emotionally disconnected when communicating with other people? This is Conversations That Work with Anita Sandoval, where you can learn how to maintain healthy conversations with the people who matter most. A podcast where you can gain confidence and get tips for having challenging day-to-day conversations that make you feel understood, validated, and heard. Here is your host, a licensed professional counselor specializing in communication skills, strategies, and techniques, Anita Sandoval. Let's start the conversation.
Welcome, everyone, to Conversations That Work. Today, we have our third episode, and this month we're going to be talking about stress. So it is Stress Month. And right now we're focusing on what comes with stress this month. I invited a special guest, Katrina Villagomez. We've worked together for almost 10 years, and she has her business, Villagomez Counseling Services, an amazing person to work with, and very knowledgeable in the subject of stress. Welcome, Katrina.
Thank you for having me.
What can you tell me about stress?
Well, stress is our body's natural reaction to change, and it can often lead to physical and emotional responses because of it.
When you have patients that come to your office or even family members or friends, what do you say?
Well, I first have to determine what level of stress it is, especially if I'm working with a client. So is this everyday stressors, which are routine and normal? Is this a stress that's coming from a sudden negative change in their life and they're having to kind of process and learn how to cope with that? Or is this a traumatic life stressor that has underlying issues and ongoing? And when it comes to family and friends, being able to see what role I need to play with them, if it is to be just an active listener and allow them to be able to kind of vent and let out everything that they have within them, or if it is that they need help with problem solving or being able to learn how to reframe their thoughts. So with family and friends, I'm not going to automatically play the counselor with them and take that approach with them. But with my clients, I do need to really define what type of stress we're dealing with and what approaches I need to take.
I love that you mentioned that, because it didn't even occur to me how people can have everyday stress, negative stress, traumatic stress. So there's so many different types of stress that people can classify them and see, okay, how does this stress look like? Is it everyday? Is it negative? Is it traumatic? And then you have the opposite of the other person who sees a loved one or a friend or someone they know that is stressed out. What role do I play for the other person that is stressed out? Should I be able to be the active listener? Would I be able to be the problem solver? That is a lot. And in doing so, what do you think would be a nice, quick strategy to know, or to help someone to know how to respond to stress?
Well, first, I would try to ask them what their approach has been with the stressor. So saying, okay, and how do you think about it? How do you feel about it? What have you been doing in regards to this? And then once I get an understanding of where they're at, then I can be able to see what I can do to help them with. So if they are, in regards to their thoughts and feelings, if they're telling me that they're very anxious about it, then I know that I have to approach it more in a psychological, emotional way. If they're focusing a lot on somatic symptoms, physical symptoms, then we focus more on ways to be able to treat those symptoms. If they're telling me their coping strategies and they're already using healthy coping strategies, then I'll just kind of validate and reaffirm. If they say, I'm not doing anything, like I have all of these feelings and stressors and I don't know what to do and I'm feeling overwhelmed, then that's when I'll give suggestions or be able to see and explore what we can do about it.
I love it. I love that when you mentioned, you know what, I asked them, what is it that they've done? Right away, we have to take the listening role. And I've noticed that sometimes when people are stressed, at least that's what my husband tends to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is stressing me out. And he's like telling me, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. I'm like, no, just because I'm telling you I'm stressed out doesn't mean I need you to tell me what to do. And that is one of the most common conflicts sometimes in people, loved ones, and maybe I don't know about friendships, but just in relationships. One of the blocks in conversations and communication is right away that loved one or that person they care about wants to fix it. And I love that you mentioned, hey, you know what, why don't we just ask, what have you done, what's going on, just to kind of listen to help them vent the stress out, to see what it looks like. So, yes, amazing. The other question I did want to ask you, so we already know what stress looks like, the different types of stress, which is amazing, but how can it affect the body? How does stress look like on the body?
So, stress is a signal that our body experiences to prepare us for the fight or flight response, which is regulated by the automatic nervous system. And so, what will happen is in that moment, our body is preparing for a certain stressor, certain problem. And with the fight and flight response, we can have our pulse quickening, we can breathe faster, our muscles tense up, our brain actually uses more oxygen and increases in alertness, our digestion slows, our immune system decreases. So we have a lot of physical changes that happen in our body, and hormones increase like cortisol, norepinephrine. So we're having, alongside with an emotional, we're having a physical reaction to our body at that moment.
Oh wow. I love these little tidbits and informations that you're saying, the fight or flight. And just so for all of you guys that are listening, I am going to provide a worksheet and a link for you to have access on this worksheet on what fight, flight, and autonomic nervous system is. And basically what Miss Katrina was saying is it's just basically this nerve that goes in your body, and it's tied to your major organs. And as she said, yes, the immune system decreases, the hormones increase. Can stress be good or healthy?
Definitely. When it's experienced in short bursts, stress can be positive. It can help you to avoid danger. And that's kind of the whole purpose to the flight or fight response. So it's an evolutionary instinct within us to help us when we're in a situation of danger, to tell us, hey, you need to either run away if you can, or you need to freeze. So it is a protective defense mechanism that helps us to stay safe. It can also help us to stay alert. So when we find ourselves focused or motivated on something, and it can be a stressful situation. So let's say you're in high traffic, and you might find that at that moment, that flight or fight response is increased. So you're really paying attention to your surroundings, and you're more alert and trying to be safer for yourself. Mm-hmm. And it also helps you to stay motivated. So if we never felt this pressure of stress in a mild form, so let's say you have an appointment and you don't ever find yourself feeling stressed to look at the time and get there on time, you will not find yourself completing tasks. So stress can be healthy in short bursts, where we feel that it helps us to be able to get our goals accomplished. It helps us to stay safe and alert.
Nice. So short bursts are good in order to be able to have our goals met. It just kind of gets you to the finish line, basically. Because it would be relaxed. We'd be like, oh, I have no care in the world. We don't need to finish it. I can see the chaos in that. So knowing that short bursts are good, it helps you accomplish the goals. When does it become unhealthy or harmful then?
So when we experience it in a chronic level, so where we're experiencing it often and intensely, it can lead to health-related issues. So going back to that autonomic nervous system, if our body is constantly in that state, it can lead us to have chest pain, trouble sleeping, headaches, high blood pressure, muscle tension, digestive problems, a weakened immune system. It can also lead us to end up having emotional issues such as depression and anxiety. And a lot of times when people experience this level of stress, where it's chronic, they might develop unhealthy coping methods such as drinking, overeating, smoking, and those in itself are going to create additional problems to a person's physical and emotional health.
Wow. Wow. Now the question here is, how long does it have to be for it to be chronic?
So I would say that it depends on the person, but I would say definitely within about 2 weeks to about a month.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And so 2 weeks to about a month, when they start having some symptoms, let's say loss of not being able to sleep, maybe some stomach issues, some chest pain after 2 weeks, then they need to maybe have an idea of, hey, you know what? I think the stress here of whatever's causing this is something that is not going to go away if I don't do something about it. Correct? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Wow. So good.
Definitely signaling to that intervention needs to be done.
Got it. Okay, 2 weeks. That's amazing, guys. You heard this. You want to pay attention how often you're having these symptoms. And if it's continuous, then you need to pay attention, because I do know that no organism can survive when it's under a significant amount of stress. It's going to break down the body. And I wouldn't even have figured 2 weeks. I am always on the run and on the go, but I can see that. I can see that if I'm always stressed out or running around on 100 miles an hour for 2 weeks and I don't relax. I remember a couple months ago, I was working out, doing a 6-week challenge, and I'm like, okay, I want to build muscle. But I wasn't paying attention to my body, and I was doing double workouts, working out 2 weeks straight, didn't even have a day off. And oh my Lord, did I feel it. I was just like run down, just not out there. My brain was foggy. And I said, you know what, I just can't. I took the day off. I literally just slept and did some self-care, did some, just some me time, massaging my legs, foam rolling. And right away the following day, I noticed a difference. And that's when I realized never again am I going to ever work out 2 weeks straight. So yeah, that's a good number. I can see that from that point of view.
Connect with Anita on Facebook. Facebook.com/Conversations at Work.
How can they be able to manage that stress? What can they do?
So different forms of self-care. If it is exercise automatically is going to give you, I like to call them happy chemicals. So dopamine, serotonin. So that's going to help regulate your brain chemistry, and it's going to help you to cope with stress at that moment. If it is deep breathing exercises, meditation, engaging in activities that you enjoy. So for myself, it might be watching a show that I think is funny, gardening, spending time with family. Sometimes you might have to do some cognitive techniques. So that might be like focusing on aspects that you can control. So oftentimes we have a lot of stressors in our life, and there are many things that are beyond our control. And the more that we focus on something that we can't control or change, we're going to just kind of internalize all of those feelings and all of those problems, but we are limited in what we can actually do. So if we focus on what we can do versus what we can't do, that can definitely help. Try to stay present orientated. So focus on the right here and right now versus even if you have upcoming stressors coming up and you know that, let's say we mentioned about coming back to school, and back to school is coming for some have already started school, but even telling yourself, hey, you know what? It's the weekend. Today is not a school day, so let me focus on today. Today is my day to recover. Today is my day to relax, to enjoy time with family, and really allow yourself to kind of focus on what's in front of you rather than focusing on upcoming stressors that are going to happen or might not even happen. And sometimes we stress about things that haven't occurred and may never occur, but we go through the whole mental and emotional experience as though it's actually happening. Because sometimes our brain doesn't know how to differentiate between reality and these hypothetical problems. And then the other one would be to set limits on yourself and others. Sometimes we take on more than we should, and we need to understand what we're capable of and set those limits to others. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to tell yourself no and understand what is within your capability. And then last, stay connected. Seek out our support system. Talk with family, friends, and you may not even have to always talk about the actual stressors, but just try to focus on those relationships, and that can help you to kind of balance out all of the emotional and physical stressors that you're dealing with, because you are finding yourself feeling happy and peaceful with your relationships.
I love it. So many strategies, guys. I hope whatever you're doing, put it down and just pay attention to these. You can rewind it if you can. I'm going to repeat a bit of it, the ones I got to write down at the moment, which was focus on aspects you can control. For example, right now with the kids going to school, the weekend, today is my day. There's no school today. I didn't even think of that. So worried with my oldest daughter. They weren't mandating masks. Now they are. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. And I'm like, wait a second, we are. It's the weekend. They don't have to go to school. So let's enjoy the moment now. And right away, I felt just a rush of relief, like, oh yeah, let's enjoy this moment right now and not let the brain the mind go to the future, because we're not there at the moment. And like you said, it might not even happen. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. And also the setting limits for yourself and others. Now, this is a touchy subject. I like to always mention it for the females, because one of the things that females, I don't know if it's culture, society, where females are programmed growing up that we have to be complacent, we have to be agreeable, we have to be nice, we have to make sure people are happy around us. And then it makes it difficult to not say no. It's like, oh, well, but I like that you said it's okay to say no. And even if you say no, it's not rude. And if you think it's rude, hey, you know what? You have the right to be rude too if you want to, if it's protecting yourself. It's okay to put yourself first, because how are you going to meet somebody else's needs if you can't even meet your own needs? So just wanted to bring that up for the females out there. It's okay to say no, just like she said. See, I'm not the only one that said it. She said it too. Okay. Yes. And support system. Okay. So I got to bring this one up too, guys. Okay. I've seen this, and I don't know if you've seen this, Katrina. You can let me know when I tell you about this. I know a lot of people will say, well, I told my sister, I told my mom, and you know what she said? She said, da, 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 and it made me feel worse. Keep in mind your support system, guys. The support system cannot be judgmental. You want someone who's going to uplift you, who's going to be positive, who's not going to be judgmental, who's going to, when I say support system, support you in a positive way. Make sure that it's uplifting, helps you see opportunities, helps you see the good in you. And if not, then that isn't a support system that you kind of want to be with, and that's okay. The little phrase I like to use, I'm not with the right type of people, and that's okay. They're in their own world, you're in their own world, and it just doesn't click, and that's okay. But you want a support system that's going to uplift you and be positive, non-judgmental, be willing to validate your emotions and thoughts, and support you, and like I said, in that positive way to your path of being happy and peaceful.
Conversations at Work with Anita Sandoval, making challenging conversations easy.
What would you like to add on that, Katrina?
Well, I would say that ultimately you are aware of what are your needs and wants and how to meet those. And so let's say if you have car trouble and you need your car to be fixed, you're not going to go to your physician to help you with that.
I love
You
it.
have to go to the right person that you feel is going to be able to help you with those specific wants and needs.
Yes.
And so there's not a one size fits all for everyone. And that's okay. That it doesn't mean that that person may not be able to help you in other aspects, but it's kind of, you have to really see what are their strengths and weaknesses, and more, what is it that you specifically need. And I know, for example, for myself, when I was pregnant for the first time, I wanted an OBGYN that was very thorough, being that it was my first time pregnancy. And so that was something very particular to me. And I went and saw one OBGYN, and I'm sure he was a very good OBGYN. He was actually recommended to me by a friend, but he wasn't meeting my needs. And so I sought someone that I felt would pertain to my specific needs and wants. And sometimes that's an individualistic trait, and that's okay. You're not wrong or bad for saying, this is something that I seek, this is something that I want, and I need to find it from a person who can give this to me.
I love that you said that, because I am very individualistic in my needs. And my husband's like, ay, eres particular. You're just so particular. And I'm like, yeah, I know what I want. I know what I need. And I'm going to figure it out to make sure I meet it. And that's okay. Just use that phrase, how Katrina said it. And that's okay. It's okay. Because then if you don't meet your needs, you're not going to meet anybody else's needs. You're going to be like, que tiene esta amargada? What is she in a bad mood? Well, yeah, because you're not meeting your needs. And it's contagious. And the analogy, oh my gosh, now I can't get it out of my mind. Your tire is flat and you're seeking the physician, the family doctor. It's not going to work. And so you want to make sure you're with the right type of people that's there to meet your needs. Not everybody's going to meet exactly everything. This is why you seek the type of people that maybe they can meet your emotional needs. Maybe the other person can meet your physical needs or financial needs, or whatever the needs it is, whatever the subject is. You want to make sure that they have that expertise, that they meet the needs as she had mentioned. And thank you for sharing that. I love it. Okay. So now that we have all these strategies, and I kind of skipped this question, but I want to come back to that because I kind of digressed. I kind of got ahead of myself, as I normally do. Help. Using all these strategies, how can it help someone?
Well, oftentimes I believe in prevention and intervention, meaning that prevention, if you're generally taking care of yourself and you are doing things on a daily basis to manage your everyday stressors, then you're going to find yourself in an overall better state of mind and be healthier as well, because you're balancing out the everyday stressors and the impacts it has on you physically. And I also see it that whenever you have an unexpected change that occurs, or you have some traumatic situation, I view this prevention method of stress management as this airbag. And so when these things come at you and they hit you hard, they don't hit you as hard, because you have been taking care of yourself. So whatever that may be, if let's say for me, it's exercise. Mm-hmm. And so if I am regularly exercising, I can handle most of my responsibilities and daily stressors, but I see the impact on myself physically and emotionally when I don't. I'm a little bit more agitated when I don't exercise. Mm-hmm. And so to help me to be just overall in a better mood, then exercise can do that prevention method. And then there's intervention. Intervention meaning that sometimes you might find that a situation occurs, you didn't see it coming, and it could be that your regular routine of prevention stress management strategies isn't enough. You might need more at that moment. Mm-hmm. You might need at that moment to say, okay, I already exercised today, but you know what? I did not see this coming. This huge blow that came at me, and I need an extra dosage. If it's, I need to deep breathe, I need to call someone and seek someone out at this moment, and I need to talk it out with them. I need to pray. I need to, whatever is your type of strategies that helps you, and to each his own. Everyone has their own style. So for some people, they do not like exercise. And then I don't necessarily recommend exercise as a stress management. It would be more as an overall healthy way of being. But if that's not your go-to, if you say, well, I like watching TV, well, then go on purposely and watch your favorite episode to kind of counteract and intervene when you're finding yourself very stressed.
Wow. So prevention and intervention. I love this. It's like for the mental health awareness and mental health being, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But in the mental health aspect, it's using stress management continuously will help you handle the daily stressors. So it would help you build resiliency to be able to manage it. But when something gets bigger than what it is, that you can't, the prevention won't be able to handle it, you can then do the intervention, which is whether it's praying or exercise, you just do a little bit extra to help combat whatever the daily stressor is. Am I correct?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
And it might not always be a daily stressor. It might be that major life-changing event. It might be a traumatic situation. So if you didn't realize that your neighborhood was going to get flooded that day, and there was no way you could prevent that from happening, then you're going to have that very traumatic experience. And at that time, you're going to have to take extra things out of your bag at that moment, your toolbox, to say, what do I do to help me to get through this situation?
Oh, I love that phrase. What am I going to do to be able to, that will help me to get through to this phase or stage or strategy or crisis or whatever you want to call it? What am I going to be able to do? What do I have on me to be able to get through this? And yes, Dave Ramsey, I like to listen to him, and he's an entrepreneur on finances. And he mentions that research study shows once every 10 years, there is something that he likes to call act of God. No matter what, to everybody, there's going to be an act of God, whether it's a new home, whether it's a new job or a loss of a job, flooding. Look at this epidemic. That's like once every 100 years, they say. And so there's these acts of God, and knowing that we're preventing and using the proper interventions, we're able to manage it by using and utilizing all these strategies that you have provided for us as well.
Sign up for up-to-date information and resources at conversationsatwork.org.
What can you tell the people here, the public, the community, to help them through these COVID times?
So unfortunately, with this pandemic, it has lingered on for way more than what we expected it to, or maybe what we wanted it to be. And so I would definitely call this a chronic stressor. And if anything, when we think that things are improving, it seems as though as we regress, if the numbers are increasing in the cases. So this is an ongoing chronic stressor. And as a result, we have to pay attention to this stressor and say, I can't control the situation, the overall situation, but I can control how I manage the situation. I need to make sure that I am constantly doing everything for myself in regards to self-care, so that you can be able to kind of get through each one of these stressors that are happening on your daily life. Also understanding that by doing so, you improve your overall health. And unfortunately, because of this pandemic, it is a health-related issue, and we need our immune system to be as strong as it can be. And if we are internalizing a lot of the stress and allowing it to affect ourselves emotionally and physically, we are putting ourselves at a higher risk if we contract the virus from becoming more ill. So we definitely want to make sure that by managing our stress, we are helping our immune system to be able to defeat any kind of health-related issues that we may come across. And then third, ultimately, because this is so long-term, we have to learn how to balance our lives. This is going to be an ongoing issue, and we can no longer shelter in place like we did in the beginning. We have to move on, and we have to learn how to live in this pandemic life. And so we need to learn how to live with these daily stressors and ongoing stressors, if they're new changes that continue to happen, and say, how can I continue to do me? How can I continue to find happiness and life satisfaction while living in this pandemic? And so we need to be able to do that with stress management and say, okay, even though all these situations are happening, I still need to find some positives in this life. And so I know I've definitely worked on that, and I've taught my clients how to do that and say, well, okay, what could we say is a positive thing that has happened because of this pandemic? And I would say, well, in the beginning, I was very focused on my health because that was something I was in control of versus I wasn't in control of the pandemic. So I sought out to eat healthier, to exercise more frequently, and I found myself losing 30 pounds because I said, I want to focus on my health so that my body can be stronger if I contract the virus.
Definitely.
Or looking at the positive, I started becoming more of a homemaker. Definitely skill sets I didn't have before. So I learned how to make Mexican rice and kale, and because I was at home more often and I was having to feed my children more often. And so I had to change it up. It couldn't be the same dishes all the time. And I was finding myself experimenting more, cooking more. We spent more time outdoors as a family. If it was walking around the neighborhood, if it was drawing on the sidewalk with chalk, if it was getting in the pool, whatever it was that we said, hey, we want to be able to focus on what we can do versus what we can't do. And we even started going more to the public library, and there was curbside, and they would give us arts and crafts and for the children to do at home. And I would actively seek them out and go and get them so that my kids could have a fun activity to do once a week. But I found myself having opportunities to do things that I didn't have before the pandemic, because we had a very different lifestyle before. But even just kind of reframing the thoughts and being able to say, I can't change the situation, but I can change how I react to it. I can focus on what I can do. If it is engaging in activities and behaviors that I know is healthy for me and will help me to get through the stressor, or if it is even just looking at the positive aspects of this change and this problem, and how can I be able to view it in a more objective point of view and not just focus on the negative, and as a result, feeling very anxious and depressed.
I love this. It's changing how we react to it, our behaviors, our attitudes, our mindset, our perspective, point of view towards the situation. And I love how you shared the benefits and the positive side on how your relationship with your family has evolved because of this epidemic. And I actually read in the news, now they're calling it an endemic because it's been that long that now they don't even consider it a pandemic anymore, that this is chronic, as you stated. And you're right. This is something that, using these strategies that you've mentioned, changing how we react to it, we can be able to have, I guess, a new normal. New normal with life, because we can never go back to the way it was, but we can definitely control and change what we can do now for a better future.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with the community?
Well, I would definitely say that a lot of times we put really high expectations for ourselves, and having much more of a understanding and accepting attitude towards ourselves. So validating our feelings and saying, it's okay for me to say that I feel overwhelmed. I feel stressed. I feel like I can't do this. And being able to be compassionate with oneself when you're feeling that way, and understanding that you're not alone. And even if you do feel that you're the only one, that's okay, because we're all different. And so you can be able to have much more this better outlook towards yourself and your feelings, so that it can help you to manage them better. If we are denying them, minimizing them, criticizing them, that doesn't help us. So instead, normalize these feelings for yourself, and then accepting them and say, I understand that this is who I am. I am more prone to anxiety. I am more prone to, maybe you're that kind of person that you just always run late every single day, and you have this chronic stressor of running late, and saying, okay, and if you want to take interventions to change that, you can, and say, for the life of me, I might have to leave the house 30, 45 minutes early because I just know the kind of person I am. Or if you find yourself that it's too difficult, or it's something that you prefer not to change within yourself, then you can be understanding, accepting, and saying, okay, but I don't have to define myself just as this one thing. I'm not just this person that's always running late. So yes, that's an aspect of me, but it's not everything about me. And so you can broaden that way of viewing and accept it as part of you, but not all of you. And really just kind of the perspective that we have with our own relationship of who we are and how we cope with stress is also going to impact us. So we don't have to reject it and say I'm wrong or bad for always feeling stress, or I should be this way, or whatever it may be. Just have much more of this understanding and accepting attitude.
I love it. Yes, definitely. I love how you said, you know what? We don't need someone else to validate our feelings. You can validate your own feelings. It's okay to be stressed, and just be compassionate with yourself, because we're doing the best we can with the situation given to us.
Yes.
So thank you so much for all your insights, sharing all your knowledge here to the community, for being part of this journey and helping people emotionally connect with themselves, and having that much needed conversation with the people who matter the most.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Conversations at Work with Anita Sandoval. Know someone who needs help in having healthy conversations? Share this episode and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Until our next conversation.